expects Halo to be good. Gears of War is gonna be literally woke shit trash. Everyone knows that. Well, to be honest, Halo is also gonna be woke, but above everything, Halo is just gonna be extremely not impressive. This is what everyone believes. Forza, who has ever cared, honestly? It's a racing game. It's a niche thing, okay? If you like Forza, that's nice, but it has never been a massive thing. It's a niche thing. Even if it succeeds, which I honestly probably think it will, because, I mean, you can't really mess up a racing game that much, can you? And the coup de grace, Fable. Fable is gonna be one of the saddest look shit receptions for the last 10 years on Xbox at least. Fable, it looks like a complete shit show. I have covered it pretty thoroughly. All the information we have about it is massive red flags. From the developers who openly lie, oh, we like the previous Fables. And then they literally say, yeah, we're abandoning every single thing that made Fable into Fable. They literally are proud of the fact that there's no more good and evil in Fable. Fable has no shot. The mechanics, the everything, the story elements that they have demonstrated to us, not even the fact just that the Fable character looks disgusting and ugly, which, you know, gamers very much love, obviously, playing with ugly characters, because of course not, no one loves playing with ugly characters. Oh my god. Fable is going to be a disaster. The fact that this is going to be considered a big release for Xbox just makes it so much more worse, honestly.
It was really interesting because I always loved Fable. It was one of my horsemen, but I didn't know Xbox thought of it that way. But after seeing the Fable reveal, it makes a lot more sense because that game's making some...
We watched the Fable release from Matty, by the way, what he had to say about it, and it was garbage dribble, okay? This guy is either delusional or that check is clearing pretty fast.
Noise. Some really good noise, which is awesome to see. That Xbox finally might have like a bona fide win on their hands without like any strings attached. But that game does obviously have to deliver. But that's just...
No, the combat just looks like Temu slop, honestly. So some of the combat is like, wow. Seriously? Unity... Unreal Engine 5 Asset Store has better combat for $5 than whatever the hell these people have made.
Piece of the pie. Remember, Xbox owns Bethesda. They own Activision. So on top of these 4 games, which is more than enough...
Which are 2 things that we know that Microsoft is actually very not happy to have bought, because they spent almost $90 billion on nothing. Yes.
For a calendar year. You've also got like a Call of Duty. You've also got whatever Bethesda
underperformed terribly, the worst selling Call of Duty of all time, and the developers who were so proud of themselves and glazing themselves by saying, oh, Call of Duty is too big to... It failed. It literally failed.
Is getting up to here. And then we even saw at the recent developer direct, like here comes Double Fine shoving a game out. So when are these all dropping is a really important part of the conversation, because one thing that Craig Duncan, the head of Xbox Game Studios, talked about is all these games need a release window, and that gets even more difficult when the holiday period is going to be gobbled up by GTA 6, which is coming out this November, and it seems like, based on what Take-Two's saying, they're doubling down. They said marketing plans are coming into fruition this summer.
Are we expecting it to actually drop this November, this year? I mean, there's a chance it drops extremely late in the year, but I don't know. GTA 6 is still the horseman of no one knows when it's launching.
Get ready, like here it comes. They're going to start taking your pre-order money. So it feels like we can lock that in. And obviously, if you're Halo, which has an anniversary this year, right next to where GTA would be launching, you got to respond to that if you're Xbox. So we have the report from The Verge. Now we're on pure Xbox here, and this is what they write. The Verge's Tom Warren has shed some more light on this today in a new report, pointing there's a big effort internally for Microsoft to release a new Forza, Fable, Gears, and Halo game in 2026. Warren says that Halo Combat Evolved is going to be aiming to launch in summer 2026 as...
Again, I don't know how many people are even remotely excited about Halo. Halo has completely burnt all cultural relevance almost at this point. It's just bad in general. The TV show was bad, that Blast game was bad, everything was bad about it.
things stand, while Gears of War E-Day is scheduled for some point in the second half of the year. Xbox is...
Now, granted, I kind of do want Gears of War because obviously the locusts and the lambit on all of the evil is not going to be evil. They're just going to be misunderstood as per usual modern day slop writing. So I do kind of want to see that, how they rewrite the history of Gears of War into, oh wait, it's actually humans who were the bad ones all along. Especially those white and male ones, man, those are the really bad ones.
With Xbox keen to avoid being too close to GTA 6. The quote is, I understand Microsoft has a good idea of when both should launch, but is also keen to avoid being too close to GTA 6 on November 19th. So yeah, this is the date everyone's dancing around. I'm really curious when the dust settles, what the window of time will be where nothing else is happening except GTA 6. Like, will we actually have a point in a holiday calendar where it's literally just GTA 6 for like a 2-week stretch? No one else wants to be in that kind of, that blast zone, basically. That said, though, Halo is the most interesting one here. Halo Campaign Evolved comes out, originally we were thinking end of this year because that's the anniversary of Xbox 25 years. Launches with Halo Combat Evolved. You're going to do that again on November 15th, right? Wrong. Halo Campaign Evolved is coming out. I hate the name Campaign Evolved, so I apologize if I trip up on that word. But that's coming out summer 2026. I'm a little iffy on this one. All right. This gets Combat Evolved beyond any concerns people had about like sprinting, on November 15th, lore, right? New campaign missions, that sort of stuff. It's really because of my co-host Lord Cognito. When I saw this game, right, I was thinking to myself like, okay, in some ways this is uglier than the original, but that's kind of me being a little pretentious. But
well, yeah, everything that is going to be created with Halo and
wrong. Halo Campaign Evolved is coming out. I hate the name Campaign Evolved, so I apologize if I trip up on that word. But that's coming out summer 2020. If I trip up on that word. But that's coming out summer 2026. I'm a little iffy on this one. All right. This gets Combat Evolved beyond any concern.
Mind in forever now is going to be versed in the original.
When he started to talk about performance concerns, frame rate was really bad. It didn't control well. There was like latency input delay. I when I started to hear those things, I'm like, oh boy. And again, this was a project that, as we've read before, Halo Studios has had issues with this, which the sky is blue, grass is green. Like, I'm not surprised by any of this, unfortunately, but it doesn't seem like a game that's really, from what we've heard with previews, ready for summer. It feels like a game that instead is being put there because it's the only window where it could breathe. And I hope I'm wrong.
It's probably being put there because they're desperate. Me know that Microsoft is looking at gaming currently in a very unfavorable light because the revenue is not there, the money is not there, the future potential is not there. Pretty much anything negative you can associate with gaming and Xbox and Microsoft in general is just not there. I mean, Microsoft is literally currently forced to resort to the pretty much last tactic they have in telling people that they are the kings of gaming, and that is, well, everyone is the most popular operating system in the world is our Microsoft Windows. So obviously we have a huge pull in gaming. Yeah, how's that? Yeah, really? Well, true. Most people are using Windows, but that doesn't mean that you have any say on what we do with gaming. Everyone hates the Microsoft Game Store or whatever the fuck it's called. Those things are horrible. Okay? You have lost all relevancy, and since what's his name from India got promoted to head of Microsoft, everything has been going downhill pretty fucking fast, obviously. Reasons. I'm not pointing names. You're a bad man. Anyway. Microsoft has been going downhill so fast. YouTube has bugs that have never existed before. New features are even worse than before. I mean, at this rate, Microsoft is gonna pull a fucking Skype on us, okay? They're gonna destroy it as they did with Skype when they decided, hey, we need to make more than 5 cents off of this bad boy.
I want this game to be great. For those who don't know, Halo 1 is like my favorite. I love Halo 3. That's like right there next to it. But Halo 1, the amount of times I've replayed it, so many memories. You will hear me wax poetic about that game numerous times this year, and hopefully for good reason. What I want with this remake is with these new prequel missions they're adding and the new bells and whistles they're adding is for me to be like, and
oh boy, does anyone want prequel missions? Again, how can we make the humans the evil ones in Halo? Oh boy. That's probably what they're gonna do. That's why they want to add prequel missions.
that's why that game is my go. And they added to it. They made it better. That's what I'm hoping for. But when I hear that they're launching this soon, I already worry about the optimization, the frame rate, that sort of stuff. So we'll see there. Gears of War E-Day being in the second half of this year is also interesting because we now know that Fable's taking up an autumn slot. That can go anywhere from September to November. We now know Xbox is keen on avoiding GTA 6. Fable looked like it was in kind of rough shape already because of its frame rate. So would October be that game's month? Is Gears a December game? If it's in the second half of the year, is it a July game? Does it fall in September? I don't know. It could fall in any of these months.
Oh, it doesn't matter when Fable is released, it's cooked.
But what Xbox is going to have with all of these games coming out is if they're trying to take 1 month out of the year, they're going to shotgun blast one way or another. This is something I have talked about so much with them, is that they need to get better at giving their games time to breathe, because last year we saw it. You had your Ninja Gaiden 4, your Outer Worlds 2. On top of that, you had Keeper get buried, and then there was the ROG Ally. This was all in like a 2-week span, something like that. It's way too much. So already their release schedule is like really interesting on a content level, but I just hope these games get time to breathe, because a lot of them have potential. Like a Halo campaign remake has a lot of potential. Gears coming back in this way, bro, like Dom and Marcus again, that's huge. I hope they make that a big deal. And it makes me wonder if that's going to be the developer direct game for this year for the summer showcase. So that's just 2 games on their calendar. You could have a whole conversation about that, which we just did, but there's more here. They said beyond the big 4, it's believed that Double Fine's Kiln will be releasing April 2026, and new Starfield content will also arrive during that month.
Oh god, I forgot there's Starfield content. That's something that we need to talk about probably tomorrow, honestly. But yeah, Starfield is getting a new expansion, boys. It is confirmed, and it's coming to PlayStation 5. Oh boy, the PlayStation fans are probably, they don't know what to do with their excitement.
We first heard about planned improvements for Starfield back in December, and then earlier today it was suggested that a PS5 release could happen in April as well. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, I've seen the Starfield update early. I've not been told when it was coming or anything like that, so I'm just going to stir right around that one. Just get out of the way here, because I don't want to say anything wrong or people think I'm like going to drop information on it. But we're seeing that new Starfield content is going to be on the way in a couple of months here, which this feels long overdue. I do think like
I can't wait to the golden days of returning to 2 or 3 negative Starfield videos a day, boys. Man, those were the days, my friends. I thought they never end. That's a song. Anyway, yeah. Fable's cooked. Starfield is going to have an expansion, and I mean, do you think it's going to have even less players than in the previous expansion? I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, hopefully. I want Starfield to set new records of nepotism. That's what I want to do. And, well, for everything else, again, Halo, bad. E-Day, probably Vogue slop. Forza Horizon, probably going to be a success, but I mean, it's not expected to be the biggest thing in the multiverse, okay? It's just a racing game. Racing games are cool and whatnot, but they have a smaller audience, okay? Racing games are niche things. Even if Forza is one of the biggest racing things, I mean, there's pretty much nothing else out there, so there you go. In any case, Xbox looks absolutely cooked. There is nothing that even looks remotely positive about it, okay? There is just nothing to hope for if you're Microsoft. Your gaming division is cooked, and you know it. That's the best part. So now they are just trying to avoid losing money. Pretty much that seems honestly to be the strategy. Expect probably another price hike for the Game Pass in the latter half of the year, or maybe the start of the next year. Again, I was right about the previous price increase, so judging the way that Microsoft everything's going with Game Pass and Xbox and Microsoft currently, it seems like, well, we are definitely overdue for another price increase, because what else can they do, honestly, right? Anyway, that was Mr. Matty Plays. Well, in this case, Mr. Matty Slop. 10 out of 10. Bye.
Hello, survivors. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the story. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. We appreciate it, and thank you in advance. Please leave the name of the city you're listening from in the comment section below. It helps us see our reach in the community. Let's start the story. The blood splatter on my Brioni suit cost more than what most people make in a month. I stared at the crimson stain spreading across the Italian fabric, a surreal contrast against the pristine white as I watched San Francisco burn from the Bay Bridge. The rifle felt foreign in my hands, still warm from the shots that had bought me seconds of life. 6 hours ago, I was Elliot Wellick, celebrated CEO of Neurocore Technologies, signing contracts worth billions. Now I was just another survivor with a stolen weapon. It started during our executive board meeting. The floor-to-ceiling windows of our conference room offered a panoramic view of San Francisco Bay, the afternoon sun glinting off the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. I was mid-sentence about quarterly projections when my assistant burst in without knocking, something she'd never done in 5 years of employment. "Mr. Wellick?" Vanessa's voice cracked, her typically immaculate appearance disheveled. "Something's happening downstairs. Security can't contain it." Before I could respond, the building trembled. A distant explosion sent pigeons scattering from nearby rooftops. Through the windows, black smoke billowed from the financial district. Julian, my CFO, pulled out his phone. "Jesus Christ," he whispered, showing me the screen. Live footage showed chaos erupting in Union Square. People attacking each other, but not like any riot I'd seen. The attackers moved with a savage, relentless focus, tearing at victims with their teeth. Our head of security, Vex, rushed in, blood staining his white dress shirt. "Sir, we need to move you now. The lobby's been breached." I looked at the faces around the table. People I'd worked with for years, built an empire with. "What about my employees?" "No time," Vex insisted, already moving toward the private elevator. "Whatever this is, it's spreading throughout downtown." The building's alarms activated with an ear-splitting wail as we hurried down the corridor. Through glass walls, I glimpsed the programming department in chaos, developers pushing desks against doors, others frantically trying their phones. "What exactly is happening?" I demanded as Vex punched the elevator call button repeatedly. "Some kind of outbreak," he replied, drawing his sidearm. "Started at St. Francis Medical. Patients attacking staff, then each other. Anyone bitten gets sick within minutes, then they turn aggressive, mindless. Security footage looks like something out of a horror movie." The elevator doors opened, revealing our head of marketing, Diane. At least it had been Diane. Her blonde hair was matted with blood, her jaw snapping wildly, dark veins visible beneath her ashen skin. She lunged forward with startling speed. Vex raised his weapon and fired. The bullet grazed her shoulder, tearing fabric and flesh, but barely slowing her advance. She kept coming, fingers clawing the air between us. Vex adjusted his aim and fired twice more in rapid succession. The first shot caught her in the throat, sending a spray of dark blood across the elevator doors. The second pierced her left eye, dropping her instantly to the floor, where she lay still, twitching once before going completely motionless. "Headshots," Vex said grimly. "Nothing else stops them." My mind struggled to process what I'd just witnessed. Diane had presented marketing reports that morning, complained about her son's college applications, laughed at someone's joke about cryptocurrency. "They're not people anymore, sir," Vex said, reading my expression as we stepped around her body into the elevator. "Not after they turn." The descent was silent except for the emergency broadcasts coming through Vex's radio. The situation was deteriorating rapidly across the Bay Area. The infection, whatever it was, spread through bites. Symptoms developed within minutes. Military quarantine protocols were failing. When the elevator stopped at the parking garage level, Vex raised his hand for silence. Moans echoed through the concrete structure, punctuated by distant screams and the occasional car alarm. "Stay close," he whispered. We moved through the dimly lit garage toward the executive parking area. The air smelled of gasoline and something metallic, blood. Abandoned vehicles blocked several lanes, some with doors left open, keys still in ignition. We were halfway to my Tesla when shapes emerged from behind a support column. 3 figures, moving with that terrible predatory purpose. Former employees, their faces contorted in mindless hunger. Vex aimed and fired in one fluid motion. The first infected dropped. He swung toward the second, but stumbled on an oil slick. The infected closed the distance with frightening speed, teeth sinking into Vex's forearm as they crashed against a car. Froze, useless. Julian grabbed a tire iron from an open trunk and swung it wildly at the third infected, buying me precious seconds. Vex managed to put a bullet through his attacker's skull, then turned to help Julian. Blood poured from the bite on his arm. "Take this," he gasped, pressing his pistol into my hand. "I'm already done for. Head for the hills, away from population centers. I can't just leave you. You don't have a choice." He cut me off, his skin already taking on a grayish hue. 15 minutes tops. That's how long I have before I become one of them. Now go. Julian and I backed away, watching Vex slump against a concrete pillar. He nodded once, then closed his eyes. My Tesla wouldn't respond to the key fob. Network down. Of course, the smartest car in the garage would be useless without connectivity. We headed for the street exit on foot, the pistol heavy in my hand. Emerging onto Market Street was like stepping into a war zone. The financial district had transformed into a nightmare landscape of abandoned vehicles, shattered glass, and distant screams. Smoke billowed from multiple buildings as sirens wailed in continuous overlapping patterns. "Oakland," Julian muttered, his eyes fixed on the distant shoreline across the bay. "My wife and daughter are waiting for me." I thought of my empty penthouse. No family waiting, no one who needed me. Just wealth and prestige that suddenly meant nothing. "The Bay Bridge might still be passable," I said, checking the pistol's magazine. 8 rounds plus 2 extra clips on Vex's belt that I'd grabbed. "It's our best shot." We made it 3 blocks before encountering the military blockade. 2 Humvees and a light tank had established a perimeter, sandbags piled high around their positions. Soldiers in full combat gear fired continuously at anything that moved. The staccato rattle of automatic weapons created a deafening wall of sound. An infected in a postal worker's uniform stumbled into the open. 4 soldiers opened fire simultaneously, their bullets tearing the body apart until it finally collapsed in a heap of shredded flesh. Another infected appeared from an alley, then another and another. The soldiers kept firing, their faces masks of desperate determination. "They're panicking," Julian whispered. "No containment strategy, just shooting everything." He was right. This wasn't an organized military response. This was raw survival instinct. As we watched from behind an overturned delivery truck, one of the Humvees started its engine and reversed suddenly, crushing a soldier who had been reloading. The vehicle sped away, leaving the remaining troops exposed. The infected swarmed the position, overwhelming the soldiers in seconds. Screams mingled with gunfire, then faded into wet, tearing sounds. "Now's our chance," I said, while they're distracted. We darted from our hiding place, keeping low. A soldier lay sprawled near the abandoned tank, the top half of his body missing. His M4 rifle was still clutched in his lifeless hands. "Take it," Julian urged. "I'll keep the pistol." I pried the weapon from the soldier's grasp, along with 3 magazines from his technical vest. The rifle felt heavy in my hands. I'd never fired anything larger than a sporting clay shotgun at charity events, but the basics seemed simple enough. Point and pull the trigger. We navigated through side streets toward the Bay Bridge, encountering scattered groups of infected. Julian fired the pistol twice, missing both times. I kept the rifle ready but conserved ammunition. The bridge entrance was a scene from hell. Abandoned cars stretched as far as we could see, many with blood-splattered windows. Bodies lay scattered across the lanes, some still moving despite grievous injuries. Halfway across, a gasoline tanker had overturned and burned, its charred skeleton blocking most of the roadway. "We can still make it," Julian insisted, his voice taking on a desperate edge. "There's space to squeeze through on the pedestrian walkway." We climbed over the concrete barrier separating the road from the pedestrian path. From here, we could see Oakland's shoreline, pillars of smoke rising from multiple locations. The infection had reached the East Bay. Julian walked ahead, the pistol held awkwardly in front of him. We'd made it perhaps a quarter mile onto the bridge when the moaning started. At first, it seemed to come from all directions, an acoustic trick created by the water and bridge structure. Then I saw them, a group of infected emerging from the abandoned cars ahead, drawn by our movement. "Back," I hissed, but Julian was already raising the pistol. "I can handle this," he said, firing wildly. The shots echoed across the water, attracting more attention. More infected appeared behind us, cutting off our retreat. "Julian, stop!" I grabbed for his arm, but he shook me off. "I'm getting to my family," he shouted, firing again and again until the slide locked back on an empty chamber. His face fell as he realized his mistake. The infected converged from both directions, drawn by the noise. Julian backed against the railing, fumbling to reload with shaking hands. I raised the rifle, firing in controlled bursts as Vex would have done. 3 infected dropped before I heard Julian scream. One of them had slipped past my fire, lunging at Julian with terrible speed. Its teeth sank into his neck, tearing away a chunk of flesh. Blood sprayed across the concrete as Julian toppled backward, the infected following him down. More swarmed him, obscuring his body from view. His screams turned to gurgling, then silence. I backed away, continuing to fire until the rifle clicked empty. Reloading was impossible. More infected blocked both directions now, creating a closing circle around me. Dozens of them stumbled forward, their collective moans rising like a hideous tide. The railing pressed against my back. Below, the dark waters of the bay churned, whitecaps visible in the fading daylight. The drop was at least 100 feet. More infected approached, their bloody hands reaching for me. I looked down at the churning water, then back at the advancing horde. No choice. I dropped the empty rifle, climbed onto the railing, and jumped. The impact with the bay water drove every molecule of air from my lungs. Icy cold seized my chest like a vice as I plunged beneath the surface. Disorientation immediate and complete. My expensive suit, now a death trap, dragged me down into the murky depths. Fighting blind panic, I clawed upward. My lungs screamed for oxygen, muscles already burning from exertion. When I finally broke the surface, I gasped desperately. Salt water streaming from my nose and mouth. The current was stronger than I'd anticipated, already carrying me away from the bridge where silhouettes of infected still prowled the railing. I shed my jacket, watching it sink. $3,000 of Italian wool disappearing in seconds. My shoes followed, then my tie. Each discarded item increased my chances minutely, but the shore remained impossibly distant. The water was frigid. Hypothermia would kill me before I could reach land unless I found something, anything to keep me afloat. The bay churned with debris, grim evidence of civilization's collapse. A plastic cooler bobbed 20 feet away, just visible in the fading light. I lunged for it, straining against the current. My fingertips brushed its surface once, twice, before finally catching the handle. Using the last of my strength, I flipped it open. 6 beer cans nestled inside. I removed 3, wedged my arm through the handle, and created a makeshift float. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. My body temperature plummeted despite my efforts to keep moving. The shore remained elusive, a dark smudge against the horizon. San Francisco burned behind me, flames consuming the skyline I'd surveyed from my corner office mere hours ago. The current pulled me sideways toward rocky shorelines where breaking waves could dash me against stone. My muscles cramped painfully. The cooler slipped from my grasp twice, the third time nearly disappearing before I caught it. Each time my head dipped beneath the water, resurfacing became harder. My limbs grew numb, responses sluggish. Consciousness began to fade. I didn't feel the impact when my body hit the rocks. Didn't remember releasing the cooler. The world tilted sideways, then black. "He's still breathing." A woman's voice, urgent but controlled. "Help me get him up before they see us." Rough hands grabbed my shoulders, dragging me across sharp stones. Pain returned in waves. Burning lungs, scraped skin, muscles screaming in protest. I coughed violently, expelling water, struggling to focus on the figures looming above me. "Stay quiet," a male voice ordered. "They're coming." My vision cleared gradually. A man in tattered military fatigues crouched beside me, his face streaked with blood and grime. Beside him, a woman with close-cropped dark hair surveyed the shoreline. A second woman, younger with a red bandana tied around her neck, pressed her fingers to my wrist, checking my pulse. "I saw him hit the rocks," the younger woman whispered. "Thought he was dead until he started coughing." The soldier pressed a finger to his lips, pointing toward the water's edge. Through the gathering dusk, I spotted them, infected shambling along the shoreline. Not isolated individuals, but a group moving with that terrible single-minded purpose. "Can you move?" the soldier asked. His name tape read, Russo. I nodded, though I wasn't sure. Every muscle in my body protested as I shifted to my knees. "I'm Mira," the dark-haired woman said, helping me up. "Former paramedic. This is Russo and Danny. We need to get off this beach." "Elliot," I managed, voice raw from salt water. The infected moved with unnatural focus, drawn to something further down the shore. Russo watched them through binoculars. "Distraction won't last," he muttered. "Marina's half a mile north. We might find a boat there." "It'll be crawling with them," Mira warned. "Everyone tried to escape by water when the roads jammed." "Better than staying here," Russo countered, handing me a combat knife. Serrated edge. Military grade. Headshots drop them instantly. Body shots just make them angry. When the last of the infected disappeared around a bend, we moved, first at a crouch, then breaking into a staggering run. My wet clothes chafed with each step, bare feet bleeding on the rocky ground. Danny supported me on one side, surprisingly strong for her slender frame. "I worked on the ferries," she explained between breaths. "Was heading to my shift when everything went crazy. Saw the whole city fall apart from the water." "What happened to you?" I asked Russo, who led our group with practiced efficiency. His face hardened. "My unit was securing the stadium evacuation point. Had nearly 2,000 civilians inside when the perimeter collapsed. Infected breached from multiple entry points simultaneously." He checked his rifle as we ran. "Commanded 26 soldiers this morning. By noon, I was the only one left." We reached a chain-link fence separating the beach from a service road. Russo cut through with wire cutters, creating a gap just large enough to squeeze through. As I followed the others, an infected spotted us from 50 yards away, a dock worker, judging by his tattered uniform. His moan alerted others, and suddenly they were converging on our position with terrifying speed. "Run!" Russo barked, firing controlled bursts at the closest threats. We sprinted across open ground, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. An infected woman in medical scrubs lunged from behind a dumpster, grabbing Danny's jacket. I drove the combat knife into the infected's eye socket before consciously deciding to move. The body dropped instantly. "Nice work," Danny gasped, pulling free. The marina appeared ahead, dozens of boats still moored to their slips. The sight would have been encouraging if not for the infected swarming the entire area, hundreds of them moving between vessels or wandering the piers. "So much for that plan," Mira breathed. "We need to thin them out," Russo decided, scanning the area. "Create a distraction, open a path to one of those smaller boats." He pointed to a fuel truck overturned near the marina entrance. "That'll draw them. Fire and noise. They can't resist it." "You're going to blow it up?" Danny asked incredulously. Russo produced a flare gun from his tactical vest. "Standard issue. One shot, but it'll do the job." He created a makeshift fuse using a rag soaked in diesel from a damaged pump. The plan was simple but desperate. Ignite the fuel trail leading to the truck, sprint for the docks while the infected converged on the explosion. "We'll have maybe 2 minutes," he warned, checking the pistol he'd given Mira. "Aim for the head, don't waste ammo on body shots, and don't stop running no matter what." As if summoned by our planning, jet engines screamed overhead, fighter planes moving at terrifying speed toward San Francisco. Moments later, multiple explosions rocked the bay, the ground trembling beneath our feet. Through gaps between warehouses, I saw sections